3. Okay, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Erica Wilson, my boss. She is going to be talking to you about foreign components today. So Erica, welcome.
Thank you, Jill. I really appreciate you doing all this training and happy to be here. Okay, today we're going to go over foreign components and how it relates to other support and biosketches and conflict of interest. So addressing the foreign affiliation and where does this actually come from and what is it, the definition of a foreign component. So research, this all came out of NIH and an investigation there. So the rules have not really changed. It's that we need to start disclosing everything. And so the big question is, does this project involve activity outside of the United States or a partnership with an international collaborator? And one of the big questions for us, as most of the work is not being done outside of the United States, but you're working with someone who is outside, and can it lead to a publication? And that is the big aspect of what we need to start disclosing, is the participation in publications. So let's get started. So NIH recognizes the importance of international collaborations, and they actually encourage it. They want it to continue to happen for scientific advances. They just want us to be open and disclose what we are doing. So NIH seeks to improve the reporting of all resources in this area, and that we have properly reported international collaborations on research. Foreign component definition. NIH requires recipients to determine whether activities it supports includes a foreign component. The existence of any significant scientific element or segment of a project outside of the United States. Performance of work by a researcher or recipient in a foreign location, whether or not the NIH grant funds are expended or not. So whether or not you're paying them as a subaward or not, this, if you're collaborating with them, if you're exchanging data, if you're working on any type, you're exchanging materials, any of those things you need to be disclosing. And then in the end, will this work into a publication and shared authorship? A lot of this goes around with postdocs that started in the lab and you collaborated with, and then they go back to their home country, but eventually when the paper's published, they are a foreign component and it has to be disclosed. In a foreign location employed or paid by a foreign organization, whether or not NIH grant funds are also expended. So that is the other side of this, is where they're located and if they are being paid by a foreign location. So sometimes we have paid direct postdocs or visiting scholars, those, and you're collaborating with them. If you do, you need to disclose those in your proposals, as well as if you publish on your other support and Biosketch. Okay, determining a foreign component. If a recipient determines that a portion of the project will be conducted outside the United States, the recipient will then need to determine if the activities are considered significant. If both criteria are met, then there is a foreign component. Pretty simple. Foreign components and other support. If an activity does not meet the definition of a foreign component, because all research is being conducted within the US, but there is a non-US resource that supports the research of an investigator and or researcher, it must be reported on the other support. This includes lab service agreements, federal, I'll get into all of that. So includes all financial resources, federal, non-federal, commercial, and institutional, if these have a foreign component in them, foreign money or collaboration. Available in direct support of an individual's research endeavors, including but not limited to research grants, cooperative agreements, contracts, institutional awards, and like I said, service agreements. If they are from a foreign entity, then they have to be disclosed as well as other support. Examples of a foreign component. A PD, PI of an NIH-funded grant has a collaborator outside the US who performs experiments in support of the PI's NIH-funded project. This would constitute a foreign component, regardless of whether the foreign collaborator receives funding from the PI's grant. Recently, I talked with one of our PIs who came to me to discuss foreign component. He has many visiting scholars into his lab, and he also does what he referred to as crowdsourcing for data analysis. So in that crowdsourcing, because they're foreign collaborators, and he lists them on publications, every one of those has to be disclosed on his other support and his Biosketch because of the publication. So that was a huge change for him, and it also had to be reported on his RPPR. And he had like over 60 publications that he had to go back and reference. So it's very important that we follow this. Additional funding from a foreign source for the NIH supported research of a PI at a US institution would not constitute a foreign component, but would necessitate reporting as other support. Foreign appointments on the Biosketch, you must list all of your foreign appointments. If you have a appointment at a foreign institution, whether it's salaried or not, needs to be listed here in your positions. If you're a member of any talents programs, they need to be listed here, or any type of affiliated appointment with any other institution needs to be here, and especially the foreign institutions. Again, list foreign affiliation appointments, list all foreign positions relevant to an application, but I would suggest you just list them all, whether it's relevant to this application or any application. They need to be on your Biosketch. Titled academics, professional or institutional appointments, whether or not remuneration is received and or whether full-time, part-time, or voluntary, including adjunct visiting or honorary. So any type of appointment needs to be listed there. Listing foreign components on NIH other support would look similar to this. Report all the resources and other support for all individuals designated in an application, senior key personnel, including the program director, principal investigator, and for other individuals who contribute to the scientific development or execution of a project in a substantive, measurable way, whether or not they request salary or compensation. They all need to be listed here. Information must be provided about all current support for ongoing projects, irrespective of whether such support is provided through the applicant organization, through another domestic or foreign organization, or is provided directly to an individual that supports the senior key personnel's research efforts. Foreign support on other support pages would look like this. Report all current projects and activities, even if the support received is only in kind, like office laboratory space, equipment, supplies, employees, still need to be listed here. All research resources, including but not limited to foreign financial support, research or lab personnel, lab space, scientific materials, selection of a foreign talent or similar type program, other foreign or domestic support must be reported. Conflict of interest and foreign and financial interests are also part of disclosure that has to happen in regards to foreign component. So financial conflict of interest regulation specifies the minimum requirements for investigators to disclose to their institution their significant financial interests. So this is on your FCOI. Disclosure includes financial interest received from a foreign entity. This requirement is distinct and in addition to the reporting of other support and foreign components to the NIH. UCSD and FCOI always adhere to the standards that are more stringent than those in the regulation, like those that are required disclosure of all financial interests. The other, I'm going to mention also besides foreign, the COI, there's also at UCSD the conflict of commitment. That also has to be listed, and if there's any foreign components in your conflict of commitment for the faculty, that's a whole nother set of forms that's done by the department. So there's an additional area where you have to track it as well. So here's some frequently asked questions for foreign components. Did the definition of a foreign component change? No, it was released in July, re-released in July 2019 and it was just a reminder. This policy has been the policy for well over 15 years. We just, NIH thought everybody was disclosing all when they've said all, but in fact, the application instructions said disclose those that are relevant for this project. So their instructions for the application didn't match their policy. That's why they're bringing it back together, and it means all. So all disclosures have to happen. The policy has not changed. It's just being reiterated and enforced. The other question, what should I do if I'm not sure if something needs to be included as other support? In interest of full transparency, recipients should err on the side of disclosure. If you know something or have a question, you should always disclose. And the other thing is NIH is instructing as soon as we know, we need to disclose if it's in ongoing research as well. We need to let them know, plus update the other support in biosketches and RPPRs. Researchers should consult with their sponsor projects officer for guidance to ensure compliance with institutional and NIH policies. NIH requires complete and accurate reporting of all sources of research support, financial interests and affiliations, both foreign and domestic. Next question. I am the PI on an NIH grant to a domestic university. I have a visiting postdoctoral fellow in my lab who works on my NIH grant and does all of his or her work in the United States. The fellow's salary is paid by a foreign government. Is this a foreign component? In general, no. The first step is determining whether research constitutes a foreign component is to evaluate whether a portion of the research is being conducted outside the United States. In this case, all of the work is being conducted in the United States, so there is no foreign component. And I would just say, going back to that, there's no foreign component as the work is being done here, but if that postdoc leaves and goes back to their home country and then produces the publication, then that would be something we would put in your RPPR proposal. There's a statement and a blanket template that we have on the HISPO website that would help guide you in drafting that language that would go into that report, so that we would cover it in case it led to a publication. So that's all that I have for today. Thank you.